Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
The San Diego Union High School Board once again taking heat about hate and Hitler in a classroom. Good evening, I'm Maya Trabulsi. The incident of alleged anti-Semitism happened last month at Carmel Valley Middle School, and tonight parents and supporters of the Jewish community are rallying outside the board meeting in Encinitas, demanding that more be done. KPBS education reporter MG Perez joins us now live from that rally. MG.
Maya, we find ourselves back at the San Diego Union High School District Board meeting once again, and once again there is controversy. As you mentioned, this time it involves a picture of Adolf Hitler that ended up in a classroom. And we've discovered that there are still plenty of people with something to say about that. They are members of the Jewish community and their allies, and they came here this afternoon with signs of protest to rally and protest against what happened in that classroom when a 7th grade history teacher posted a picture of Hitler right along with honored leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and Mahatma Gandhi. That, of course, caused quite the controversy. The teacher has since apologized, and the superintendent has since apologized. Earlier today, I spoke with one of the parents with a student in the history class where this happened. Jonathan Gale has since had his son moved to another classroom.
Don't even have to go too far to really understand that this is rooted in a deep negative bias against Jewish people. And so to plant that seed in the head of a number of children going through her class, that's potentially priming the pump for a lot of kids to question the legitimacy or the reality that the Holocaust was. And that's a dangerous, dangerous path to go down.
Dozens of protesters are already inside the school board meeting, which has just begun. They're not officially on the agenda for tonight, but there is an opportunity much later in the evening for them to speak and be heard. They hope that they get moved up in the agenda so they can speak earlier rather than later, Maya.
And MG, speaking about the agenda, we understand that the rally has impacted another important issue on tonight's agenda. Can you tell us more about that?
So you will remember that we were here at the board meeting a month ago, and that was to cover a resolution that would protect the rights and safety of LGBTQ students here in the district. At that time, the school board decided to defer the issue until tonight. Well, guess what? The students who wanted that resolution have themselves requested it to be pulled off the agenda because they say they don't want to be lost in any controversy or protest, and they're asking that that be put back on the agenda sometime after the November election, Maya.
And of course, MG, you'll be following this story. Thank you so much for that report. Cold and flu season and the sickness that goes with it is spreading all across San Diego County. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer says health officials are predicting a much worse flu season than last year, and it's already taking a toll on schools.
Coughing, wheezing, sneezing, we all know the feeling. It's mid-October and cold and flu season is bearing down on San Diego residents. The past couple of years have been mild for cold and flu, thanks in part to social distancing and mask wearing to protect against COVID-19. But those precautions have now pretty much gone by the wayside. Dr. Cameron Kaiser of the San Diego County Health Department says things are different this year.
We're looking at a reported outbreak of flu-like illness at Patrick Henry High School, largely fever, cough, respiratory symptoms, and we're also investigating some similar reports at Del Norte High School. While this is preliminary, a number of them are already testing positive for influenza A.
Vanessa Alvarado is the mother of 2 Patrick Henry High School students, where hundreds of high schoolers have been out sick this week.
We've had my youngest in bed since Sunday morning, and it was almost immediately after the homecoming dance. And she had 103 fever. She slept the entire day Sunday. My oldest was sick for 2 days, so a little less affected.
The issue isn't limited to Patrick Henry. The Poway Unified School District also has large numbers of students under the weather. Christine Peck is the Chief Communications Officer for the district.
And one of our schools, Del Norte, seems to be particularly impacted. We don't know for 100% certain that it's all flu, but we do know that there are many students out, about 400 yesterday and the day before, with flu-like symptoms.
Kaiser says the reason many students are sick could be a mixture of a bad flu season coupled with other illnesses.
Flu A is the harder hitter of the two major types of flu we deal with annually, and we're already seeing an early rise in flu and other kinds of respiratory viruses in the county. And it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if we hear more of these reported outbreaks other places and not just in high schools either.
So far, there's been over 1,000 recorded flu cases this season. Kaiser says that's a quarter of last year's total. He's urging San Diegans to get their flu shots as soon as possible in order to combat this year's early and fast-spreading flu. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Violent crime is up in San Diego County. That's according to a new Sandag report that shows 2022 had the highest mid-year crime rate in the last decade. And in the report, the number of reported homicides went up 4%, while the number of robberies went up 15%. Car theft increased 4%, and burglaries increased by 10%. Reported rapes and aggravated assaults were found to have decreased in the first 6 months of the year, but aggravated assaults were still the second highest number since 2012. Sandag says while the rates are still relatively low, the community should still be aware of the increase. We're still getting pummeled by high prices despite historic rate hikes by the Federal Reserve to keep inflation in check. Isabel Rosales has the latest numbers.
A new report out Thursday from the Bureau of Labor Statistics is revealing something most Americans already know. The prices of consumer goods and services are still surging, and people are feeling the pain everywhere, from the supermarket checkout to the doctor's office.
It's not just disappointing, it's actually damaging for households in the sense that their buying power has been robbed by inflation.
Data from September's Consumer Price Index came in hotter than expected, showing inflation rising 8.2% last month compared to a year earlier. That means despite September's lower gas prices and aggressive actions from the Federal Reserve, which take time to have a pronounced effect, just about everything got more expensive.
The major contributors to this rising inflation in the latest reading include many things that we cannot do without. This includes food, shelter, a measure basically of rent or what we're paying with our house payments, as well as medical care.
In response to the exploding cost of living, the Social Security Administration announced an 8.7% boost in monthly payments beginning next year, the largest increase in more than 40 years. But some analysts say this still won't be enough to help the 70 million benefits recipients weather the financial storm.
I am concerned, however, that doesn't quite keep pace with inflation or the real costs that many people have to pay when we're thinking about shelter, heating costs, and medical care and prescription drugs.
In Washington, Isabel Rosales, KPBS News.
It's an effort to close the gap on the digital divide. A new statewide broadband network got its start in Poway today, where the first length of fiber optic cable was laid down. KPBS science and technology reporter Thomas Fudge was there for the groundbreaking of what will become 10,000 miles of connectivity.
And here we are, October 2022, and we are installing our first fiber.
The fiber that State Technology Department Director Leanna Bailey Crimmins spoke about was being threaded into the ground at the foot of Iron Mountain in Poway. A lot of the work of burying the fiber cables and running it throughout California falls to Caltrans.
We're holding a strand of the broadband fiber that went into the ground just now. We just placed 500 feet, the first 500 feet of a 10,000-mile broadband middle-mile network, and today we just made history here.
Those thousands of miles of connectivity will arrive in rural and urban areas of California, where officials say 1 out of 5 people do not have broadband access. That means they are not able to access resources that involve health care and education. California Transportation Secretary Taxomi Shakan has a list of things that begin with E that people are forced to find on the internet.
But there are some E's that we like to talk about all the time, that make this sort of drive this home to what it's going to do for people from an economic standpoint, from an equity standpoint, from an employment standpoint, from even emergency and even healthcare standpoint. This is going to mean access.
The fiber optic cables will lie just 18 inches below the ground. The cable is being called the middle mile of the internet broadband system. The last mile is the connection from the cable to homes and businesses.
So what we are building here today is a middle mile network, which is a backbone in order for last mile providers such as AT&T and others to connect and provide that connectivity that's so vital for individuals.
Teresa Valenzuela is with the San Diego Futures Foundation, which provides computers to low-income people. She says closing the digital divide also requires connectivity, which many San Diegans lack.
There's so many senior citizens, disabled, students, mothers, refugees. Why do they not have it? Most of the time it's because they can't afford it.
Bailey Crimmins said in order for internet providers to be part of the state broadband network, they must provide affordable internet services. The total cost of the network is $3.8 billion. A lot of the money comes from the federal American Rescue Plan Act, aimed at bolstering the economy during the pandemic. As a mandate to federal funding, the network must be completed by 2026. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
Statistics show 53,000 households in the city of San Diego don't have access to the internet. To help close the digital divide, the city is offering the Tech on the Go program. It's designed to help people feel comfortable using a computer and using the internet. Free in-person classes are being held at 7 libraries and rec centers.
He has shown us the digital library systems along with the classes, and some of the other seniors here are also learning about the use of the computer and some of the applications that are available.
Today, we use our internet, our computers, and our smartphones for everyday errands. We use them to access grocery stores and delivery options, hybrid school models, and even doctor's appointments.
And you can find more information about the class schedule and how to sign up online at sdfutures.org. A candidate for the 76th Assembly District in San Diego has sued over 2 6-year-old boys who she claims were bullying her son at school. KPBS investigative reporter Claire Tregesser looks into the unusual case.
When Kristie Bruce-Lane felt her 6-year-old son was being bullied at school, she took 2 aggressive and unusual steps. First, she filed a lawsuit seeking more than $48 million in damages. She sued the school, the head of the school, and the mothers of the 6-year-old boys she thought were bullying her son. Then she did something even more unusual, according to legal experts. She put the boys' full names in the lawsuit. That means the legal action will likely be in the public record for the rest of their lives.
It certainly is unusual to have schoolyard bullying result in a lawsuit. Disciplinary problems are usually handled at the school level, and that's why this is so extraordinary.
Bruce-Lane's son attended the private and pricey San Diego French-American School in La Jolla, beginning when he was 2 years old. In the complaint filed last April, Bruce-Lane claims that when her son entered first grade, he was punched, pushed, and called stupid by 2 classmates. She says she filed complaints with the school and nothing happened. Then the school said her son was not welcome back the next year because she and her husband, quote, prevented a positive or constructive relationship and, quote, seriously interfered with the school's accomplishment of its educational purpose, according to court documents. Bruce-Lane filed the lawsuit a month later. In court documents responding to the lawsuit, the school argued it, quote, repeatedly addressed complaints about the alleged bullying over a period of 10 months. The school's efforts included the formation of a behavioral response team, separating the involved children, exchanging numerous emails with the parents, meeting with the parents in person, and multiple offers to set up Zoom meetings, the documents state. The school's response goes on to say that Bruce-Lane and her husband refused to cooperate with the school and became abusive and threatening to teachers and staff and demanded the school, quote, completely ignore their own son's misbehavior.
That is an extremely strange choice.
Attorney and former city council candidate Will Moore says regardless of whether the lawsuit is successful, it's probably bad politics.
That is an interesting political choice.
Bruce-Lane is a Republican running on an anti-tax, anti-government platform against Democrat Brian Mainshine. Neither Bruce-Lane nor her attorneys responded to multiple requests from KPBS for comment prior to the story being first aired and published. Douglas Jaffe, an attorney for one of the mothers being sued, says Bruce-Lane and her husband never attempted to contact his client before filing the lawsuit.
There was never any approach by Miss Bruce-Lane to come to Miss Saab, parent to parent, indicating any problem.
More shocking, Jaffe says, is the decision to include the boys' full names.
It puts unsupported, in our opinion, allegations out there against a minor with that minor's name that shouldn't be there.
The school has filed for a summary judgment to dismiss the lawsuit, and a hearing on that is set for April 2023. If the suit goes forward, a trial is scheduled for June 2023. Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
The House January 6th committee has subpoenaed former President Donald Trump for personal testimony about the 2021 Capitol attack.
Mr. Chairman, on this vote, there are 9 ayes and 0 noes.
That was the unanimous vote to subpoena Trump. Today's hearing featured new evidence and testimony and never-before-seen footage of congressional leaders trying to deal with the threats and chaos as protesters broke into the Capitol building. It comes less than a month before the midterms. A UC San Diego political science professor told KPBS that with voters about to head to the polls, this hearing puts the spotlight back on Trump.
That's rallied some of his supporters, but it also galvanizes his opponents, both Democrats and independents. And that's helped Joe Biden at a time where instead of making the midterm a referendum on his performance and his economy, it's making it a choice between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Yet again, that's a choice he's won before, and that could help the Democrats improve their fortunes in what looked to be a really tough November midterm.
Thad Kauser says inflation and abortion could also play a role in swaying voters, and abortion is one of the issues that has shown Democrats coming out ahead. Measure C on November's ballot will ask San Diego voters whether they want to allow taller buildings in the Midway District. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says it's a repeat of a 2020 ballot measure.
More than 56% of voters already said yes to exempting the Midway District from the city's 30-foot coastal height limit. But the ballot measure's opponents sued the city, arguing it hadn't conducted a proper environmental analysis. The city lost its initial court battle and is appealing. By taking the issue back to voters, Measure C is the city's de facto backup plan.
Midway is not a beach neighborhood, period, full stop.
DK Anyuwo lives in the Midway District and supports Measure C. He says Midway shouldn't have the same height limit as truly coastal neighborhoods. And to fight the blight and revitalize Midway, he says property owners need the ability to build taller.
With this current artificial constraint that we've put upon ourselves for the last 50 years, the underlying economics just don't pencil for any sort of development at scale.
I'm not anti-development.
Philip Halpern is a retired federal prosecutor and Mission Hills resident who opposes Measure C. He says it'll make traffic worse.
Midway is not a typical beach area. There's no question about that. But what it is, it's a gateway to the beach area. It's the gateway to Ocean Beach.
Also at stake with Measure C is the city's redevelopment plans for the sports arena, which won't be feasible unless the height limit is lifted. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
And for more on the election, you can head to kpbs.org and click on the Voter Hub link on our homepage, and you'll find all of our stories on key races as well as our in-depth ballot guide. The NFL updated its concussion protocol after several recent head injuries, and now the safety spotlight is shining on high school football teams and how student athletes can be better protected on the field. Mandy Gaither now has more on a new study that suggests scaling back drills during football practice may help.
It's the most popular sport with high school boys. Nearly 1.5 million play football, but concerns continue to grow over head injuries.
A lot of head impacts are occurring during practice,
not just the games.
That's why a new study published in the medical journal Pediatrics suggests changing the way high schoolers practice may help. The researchers from Indiana University studied 3 Midwest teams in the 2021 season using mouth sensors to gauge the impact different plays and drills have on an athlete's head.
Numbers kind of astounded me. So 74 players a season, they looked at 7,300 head impacts. So it's close to 100 impacts per player on average.
In just under 86-hour study, there were 310 head impacts with air drills or drills without contact, compared to more than 3,300 head impacts in 115 hours of thud drills, where players train at high speeds and restrict contact to above the waist.
That's a lot of head impacts on these high school football players. And it's not just concussions, it is these subconcussive or just head impacts of any sort. They accumulate over time.
Because of that cumulative effect, researchers say minimizing head impacts during drills and practice may help reduce head injuries overall.
We know more than ever that some of these chronic changes, some of these most concerning changes in the brain can start early.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
It's not just here in California. Most of the United States is parched, and it's getting worse. Today, the U.S. Drought Monitor announced 55% of the country is experiencing drought conditions. The drought has been spreading since the beginning of September and into highly populated regions in the southeast and Midwest. The Mississippi River is experiencing critically low water levels, and so are many rivers that flow out of it. More than 133 million people live in drought areas, which is the highest number since 2016.
I'm meteorologist Ariella Scalise. Let's get you started with those weather headlines here. We're going to continue to see those low clouds from night to morning, so heads up for that. A little drizzle with that. A low chance of some showers and thunderstorms developing as we head into Friday and Friday night, and then warmer and drier air moves in as we head into early next week. Here's your forecast for tonight. We're down to 64 in Oceanside, San Diego 66, and Borrego Springs drops to 67. In the mountains, temperatures will be cooler in the 50s. I talked about the chance for a shower or thunderstorm as we head into Friday. Futurecast not really showing too much activity. Again, keeping that isolated chance for a shower or storm developing. I do think most of us stay dry, but we'll keep that slight chance around as we head into our day on Friday. Otherwise, we're talking about a very warm setup again as we head into the day tomorrow, and then we'll continue to see those temperatures warming into the 70s. So Oceanside, 71 for you. San Diego, also sunshine, 71, and Borrego Springs all the way up to 96 degrees on our Friday. Looking at what we can expect for Saturday, it looks like the best chance of showers and storms does stay well to our south and east. Otherwise, most of us staying warm and dry to start our weekend. Looking at your 5-day outlook for the coast, again, watching a few of those showers possible. Otherwise, temperatures will stay into the 70s over the next couple of days. Inland, watching for that chance for a couple showers as we head Friday into Saturday, and then temperatures warming back up early next week. Looking into the mountains, could see a shower or thunderstorm around Friday and Saturday, and then drier with comfortable temperatures in the 60s. And finally, in the desert, things will be pretty hot on Friday, but a chance of showers and storms, and then some cooler temperatures as we head into the second half of the weekend. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Ariella Scalise.
Her name is Lefty. She is an endangered green sea turtle who was successfully returned to the ocean by SeaWorld San Diego earlier this week. She got her unique name because when she was rescued last year, she was found with part of her left rear flipper missing. The team at SeaWorld performed surgery on her to remove a huge amount of red algae from her GI tract. Lefty was returned to her ocean home south of Coronado, where she will swim toward warmer water and a second chance of life.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, the January 6th committee subpoenas former President Donald Trump. That's coming up at 7 right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. The big story out of Washington is the January 6th committee voting to subpoena former President Trump to testify. NPR's Morning Edition will have coverage of what comes next. And KPBS Roundtable is diving into the general election with a conversation on the race for San Diego County Sheriff. It's a tied series as the Padres prepare for Game 3 at Petco Park tomorrow. Jay Cronenworth and Manny Machado provided the power for the Padres in Game 2 against the Los Angeles Dodgers, and each hit solo home runs in the 5-3 win over the Dodgers. One of the most talked about moments, though, from last night's game happened when an unexpected visitor decided to fly in.
There's a bird out there in center field, by the way.
I mean, a duck. We needed it. We thought we saw everything in the game, and now a new friend wants to join our party. Hello, friend. Do we go?
Nope, that's not a duck. It's actually a goose, and it's on the loose. It briefly delayed play during the 8th inning after it landed on the field. Ground crews were able to catch it by putting a towel over it. And the Los Angeles Audubon Society tweeted that the bird was a greater white-fronted goose, saying bright lights can disorient birds that migrate at night, which this species does. You can find tonight's stories, you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.